Hey guys, I wanted to share my finished palette setup now that I've got it all, I guess, sort of the way I want it. I also wanted to share my process for how I did my swatch in case you are setting one up yourself. I do know that, was it Waffle Flower? Waffle Flower Crafts, they put out a stamp set and die set to help you do swatch charts. I decided I wasn't going to go with it, so I would just make my own. So I'll show you what I did to make that. So as I said when I shared this in my haul video, I got some Daniel Smith watercolors from a D-stash, and I decided I wanted all my watercolors to go in one container instead of having them in smaller palettes, because I don't plan on traveling with my watercolors anytime in the near future. So I had this pencil case from Karen to Ash. These are the Pablo 120 set. So there was 2 trays in here, so I knew that it would be useful to try this out. So I decided to put the watercolors in the top tray this time. I think when I showed the D-stash, I put it in the bottom tray. I switched to the top tray because I know that I'll probably be using the top tray and take me less time to do this, but using the top tray with the paints in it much faster, so less work, and it's easier for me to just get going. So this is a metal tray, one of the inserts that comes with your colored pencils if you buy this, and since I already had the container, this was perfect. And then what I did was I took some magnets, and they are 5x7 magnet sheets that have a sticky back on them for photos. And I just cut them into strips and then put them on the back of the pan, or on the bottom of the pan. So each one of these has a little piece of magnet, and it only required one whole sheet of magnet to do all the Daniel Smith watercolors. But you'll notice this set has now cake half pans in it, and these are the Prima watercolors. I labeled each one. You can see this one is number 60, and actually had a name on the label. Most of them do not, and I actually said who the manufacturer is. I only have these 2 sets in the half pans. So I wanted to put them together so that I would use up the Prima ones, and also to supplement the colors I have. Obviously with watercolors, with really a lot of medium, you can blend them together to get new colors or other colors. So the way I set up my pans are all of the reds are up in this left quadrant here. Then it goes to the oranges, and you can see the pinks are over here too. So this starts up with like a hot pink magenta kind of color, and it progresses from reds to pinks, and then there's some of the oranges and the browns in the center, and then the yellows and the greens. Okay, the reason the greens are here is because I have the blue underneath, and you guys know blue and yellow make green, so the greens are kind of in the middle here. I do have some from Prima that are like a shimmer color. Even the Daniel Smith set, there was some shimmery colors in there too, like this one right here. Let's see if I can find these 2 right here, or no, this one right here, I think. But there are some shimmery colors in here. And I can, of course, I can move these around. If I ever decide to buy more watercolors, which I don't think I will, I can move them around because they're just magnetic. And if I were to hold this tray upright, see, they don't slide because they are magnetized to the sheet. So yeah, I went ahead and set up my pans this way, and also did my swatch chart. So with the swatch chart, I used some watercolor paper that I already had on hand, and this is the Legion paper, Stonehenge Legion hot press paper. And so I drew my chart using that paper and my Micron pen. Okay, I have different size nibs. So this one's a 0.8, so it's pretty fat, 0.08. Yeah, 0.08. So this one's pretty fat. I use that to draw the lines. The reason I use the micron pen is because it is archival, so it's waterproof. And this is pigment ink and fade proof. So it is in black, and I have this in other colors too, but this is in black, and that's what I use to draw the lines. So when you're watercoloring the swatches, the lines don't bleed and they don't fade. So that's just a tip if you're going to draw your own instead of using a stamp or something like that. But you can see that I had to, because I have so many colors, these are 1-inch squares. I had to make it fold out. So it's 2 pieces of paper that I cut down to fit inside of the container. And it is set up exactly like my pans are set up. So you can see some white areas in there, and that's because in between, say, the red and the purple, there is a gap so that I can add on to the red or I can add on to the purple if I want to. And I won't have to redo the chart. So in addition to the colors, I also have the black and gray scale here. That's at the bottom. And that's because if you look at my watercolors, I have some grays and some blacks. I also have whites, but I didn't paint any of the whites because those aren't going to show up anyway because the paper's white. So that's my color chart, and you can see the way that I did it was the full color is in the upper left-hand triangle, and then in the bottom right of the triangle, bottom right triangle, like this one for instance, this is just the water. So I painted this first with the full color, and then I went back and cleaned my brush and painted it with water so that I drew down the color so you could see what it would look like if you were to just water it down. So that is my palette setup and swatch chart for my watercolors. And it took me 2 days to do this. Number one, because the first day actually I had to sit there and identify every single pan in here. The pans were not labeled in any way, so I had to guess at what the colors are. Well, if I run out of a color and I need to refill it, I need to know what it is. So I put the manufacturer on the side, that's Daniel Smith, and then on this side is the name. I don't even know if I can read that. Oh, cerulean blue. I can't read my handwriting. Cerulean blue. That's what that is. So I'll have to go and look for the tube for cerulean blue if I ever need to refill it. That's the reason why it took me 2 days, is because none of the Daniel Smith ones were labeled except the ones that I added in. And out of all of the pans, I only had one double because I had gone to the Stamp Affair class and we were using this color which I thought was magenta. Well, here's the actual name. I've abbreviated it. It says lilac. And it's actually in the upper right corner here, or upper left corner here. So I took this pan out so there wouldn't be a double in there. But yeah, that's my set of Prima and Daniel Smith watercolors together because they're all the half pans. And underneath the pan here are my swatches that I was using to identify. You can see that I went through and painted every single color I have and then identified it based on the Daniel Smith swatch chart, because these are actual paints too. So you can see where I may have activated the paint on the swatch chart so I could match it to my colors. So there is even bigger cards in here that have all this. I think here it is. So this took me all day yesterday to do that identification. And there's the blues. And you can see these little dots to the side because I was trying to figure out, is this the closest color or is this a different color? You know, yeah. And I'll tell you, there are some really pretty colors in here. There's one in here that looks like a mermaid. Look at this color. I don't know if the camera will pick it up. And maybe if I stop holding it there. See, there's a shimmer in that duochrome aqua. Even the turquoise one has shimmer in it too. Oh, just beautiful colors. The only paint that I really did not like is the Viridian. And I was warned about this too. The Viridian is a pretty color, but it will set, and you can't add water to kind of make the lines go away, so it's a little difficult to work with. It's a beautiful color though. And then here we go. Let me just show you this too. I used these two silver brushes to do my palette or my testing yesterday. I used the number 8 to do my color identification for the swatches. And then I used my number 6 travel brush. This is one that folds, so you can, where the gold band is, you can take it apart and put it in on each other. I use the number 6 to fill in all the 1-inch squares that I made. And then I also have this 3-cup container here, which comes apart. I was drying it for 3 separate cups of water, and that is so that you don't contaminate your colors. I don't even remember where I bought this from, but it goes in on each other, so it stacks inside of one another, so you can store it away. But this is handy to have because you can, wash your brush off in one, go to the next one to clean it a little bit better, and then as the water gets muddier, you have always one clean bucket to rinse off in. And then I switched, I dumped the water out. This was also handy to have to spray the pans. So as I was working, I would do one row at a time, and you have to do, when you're doing your swatching, you actually should skip the, every other one so that you can let the paints in between dry on your swatch card, and then they don't bleed into each other. So that's the way I did it. I sprayed every single one in the row while I was working on that row, and then just went back and did every other pan, and then a second time to pick up the ones that I didn't do on the first run. That way your paint dries in between, and when this one is dry, this one is now wet, and this one is dry, so that this color doesn't bleed into the other two, is what I meant to say. So that is my swatching adventures. I don't want to do the blended swatch yet because that's going to take a long time, and I feel like it's kind of not necessary at this point. So yeah, that is my setup color palette. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye for now.